Hello there, this is Jason of 2 Blue MTG, the YouTube channel where we do deck techs, gameplay mainly of EDH and some other formats. And today I will be talking about one of my most recent decks in EDH, Jace, Vryn's Prodigy. You can focus. Anyway, what it is he's a colorless and blue for a 0/2. Legendary creature, human wizard. Tap to draw a card and discard a card. If there are 5 more cards in your graveyard, exile Jace, Vryn's Prodigy. Then turn it on the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. And then you get Jace, Telepath, Unbound. He's a planeswalker with his +1 reading. Up to 1 target creature gets -2/-0 until your next turn. -3 reading. You may exile target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard this turn. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So just basically get value, and his -9 comes in that you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, target opponent puts the top 5 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. And the reason why I chose Vryn's Prodigy as my commander is because early game, tapping and drawing just to kind of filter out cards and kind of dig to. This is a combo control deck similar to, well, it's kind of like a high tide style deck in the way it wins. And I find him to be very good for that, because even when we're using something like Impulse, Brainstorm, and all stuff like that, it really helps to dig further and further. And that even using that -3 once or twice in the game can be very, very good. And basically has your graveyard as an extension of your hand, which is why I really like him as a commander. There are other ones that do just kind of win more often, like Taller and Sky Summoner, and all those that are just kind of their commanders are a winning condition. This one is not. It's reusable utility. I like him because for the first time he only costs 2, then 4 if I even cast him again. I usually never cast him beyond 3 times, and then he comes in at 6 mana, and beyond that point I'm kind of winning an end game and don't really need the card draw ability at all. So yeah, that's why I chose Jace, Vryn's Prodigy as my commander, because I really like his utility and toolbox like nature, to where you can just reuse a bunch of stuff and keep on going to combo out further. Let's get into Metabase. I'm currently running 37 lands. And we're going to start that off with Academy Ruins, the land that is played in just mostly Modern and EDH, and is really good in decks that you run artifacts because it recurs them for you. It's a legendary land. Tap to add 1 color to your mana pool, and pay a colorless and a blue. Tap, put target artifact card from your graveyard on top of your library. You'll see that in a minute when we start getting to the actual non-land cards of the deck. Into Darksteel Citadel, because people like destroying lands. At least I will have 1 left. Helmar Depths, because turn 1 I might not be able to brainstorm if I don't have anything like that, but I do have a Helmar Depths. It's nice because basically it's a 1 activation of Sensei's Divining top, so I can just adjust the top 3 and get a good draw. Temple of the False God, because later game the extra mana can help a little bit. Seat of the Synod, just because I threw it in. And then the rest are that 1 island, and the rest are Theros lands with smiley faces and the mana symbols. And that's making up a 37 land mana base. And that finishes off with the lands. On to the non-land permanents. First, we're going to get into the more ramp nature of the deck, and starting off with Caged Sun, the basically staple for modern mono-colored decks in EDH. And when his battlefield chooses a color, creatures you control the chosen color get +1/+1. And whenever land's ability adds one or more mana of the chosen color to your mana pool, add an additional one. So it doubles your mana, so it just adds another one, which is good. Next is Gauntlet of Power, which is a 5 mana Cage Sun, but it also affects your opponents. So that's kind of like a double-edged blade, but more times than not, I'm going to be using the mana more efficiently and more effective than them. So it's going to work. And if they're not playing blue at all, then it's really a plus on my end. And next, Extraplanar Lens, because, 3 mana doubler. And like I said, if they're not playing islands, that's a plus on my end. And I'm eventually going to be switching all these islands into snow covered. So then Extraplanar Lens will be a little bit better. Alright, next comes Soul Ring, because what's a commander deck without a Soul Ring? Next, I like Gilded Lotus because this, currently as you can see, you can do a decent bit of ramping in this deck. So hitting 5 mana early is not going to be a problem. Especially the amount of digging and instants and sorceries there are in this deck. It really helps you get going. So that's not easy. So that's relatively easy to hit and cast. Next is Mana Crypt, because casting a turn 1 Jace and any 1-drop artifact like Soul Ring or Sensitive Vine Top is really, really good. Yeah, and it's worth taking the damage in. Mine's Spanish. So yeah. And then kind of along the ramp is Reality Spasm, when I have so many lands that and they tap for usually more than one. It's real easy for this to get out of hand real quick, and plus with stuff in the deck that copies instants and sorceries, like you'll see later, this is really, really good. And it's also great with Jace's ability and reusing it more than once in turn. And then, namesake of the deck, High Tide. All lands produce an additional blue, 1 tap for mana until end of turn. Next is Sad Robot, because, 4 mana, ramps you 1. When it dies, draw a card. Next, we're kind of going to get into the utility, and the main use for this is to copy stuff like Gauntlet of Power, Cage Sun, Extraplanar Lens, and then that's the same goes for Sculpting Steel, Clever Impersonator, and Phyrexian Metamorph. That's basically what it goes for. Now, next on the utility list, Bosium Strip. 3 mana artifact that has a activation cost of 3 colorless and a tap. Until end of turn, if at any time the top card of your graveyard is an instant, interrupt, or sorcery card, you may play that card as though it were in your hand. If you do so, remove that card from the game. So essentially this is one of the few cards that make the order of your graveyard matter, in the fact that, like I said, the top card. So order matters. But more times than not, we're going to be spell sing a lot, getting our storm count up a lot, which you'll see later on why this is really good. Like Reality Spasm, anything like that. A bunch of cantrips, stuff like that. Bosium Strip is an all-star in this deck due to just the utility of it and being able to do everything. Next is Thassa, God of the Sea, which kind of has 2 purposes. One's the main one is at the beginning, upkeep Scry 1. This is kind of on the chopping block for the moment, but I don't know, it's not a bad 3-drop. Eventually, my devotion can get up high enough to make this a creature, and the paying the colors in blue to make a creature unblockable can work. This deck, if it needs to, it can go Voltron by boosting it up with Cage Sun and Gauntlet Power, boosting up creatures, dealing in with a few damage at a time, making him unblockable. It can be done, but not very likely. Next is Land on Anticipation, because giving everything flash is really, really good. Fabricating at the end of your opponent's turn, which is another one of the utility/draw spells in here. Leyline of Anticipation, just giving everything flash, is the main benefit of that. Next is my Library of Lang that I sadly Sharpied and did a piss poor job. Basically, you have no maximum hand size, and if you were to discard you would discard at the top of your library. And if you were to discard at random, you may decide. So that's mainly used for the discard. This deck, it really doesn't want to have no maximum hand size, which is why Reliquary Tower isn't ran in here. And this is removable via a bounce spell, so that's why I do run it. Just for those rare occasions where I do need no maximum hand size. When if there is a rest in peace or anything like that, I want to keep all these cards in my hand, and I really don't want to be discarding. So it's just a quick little tutor up away from a great utility. Next is Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. I don't have him in here to really cast him as late game bomb and win. Mostly just because whenever he enters the battlefield, enters the graveyard, you shuffle your graveyard into your library. So that is the main reason why that is ran in here. Is because, well, at the end of turn, just discarding your entire hand, giving yourself the perfect 7. Like if you can draw your library, which is very doable because Enter the Infinite is in this deck, or even just like drawing over the maximum of 7, getting instants and sorceries back in your library. Good, it's a refresh, awesome ability. Next is Lightning Greaves, just in case people do realize that Jace is a target, and the reusable draw and discard ability is really what this deck is great. What's really great about my commander is just the utility and toolbox nature. Sometimes I do need to protect him before he gets out. Now it's kind of into the, I believe this is Ghost, yep, more into the utility and toolbox nature and draw of the deck. Fabricate to get all the cards, like all the ramp cards. It's great because, well, 3 mana, basically pick anything out. Because sometimes other mana accelerants are better than others. Like if I'm playing against another mono blue deck, I really don't want to grab Gauntlet of Power, so I'm going to rather grab Cage Sun. So, well, self-explanatory, so there you go. Merchant Scroll, basically grab any blue instant card, more or less used to fetch up a counter spell of any sort. Peer Through Depths. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery cards from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. That's of course good because, well, it is a Storm, it is a Spellslinger deck, so getting at least one card might even be another cantrip or draw spell, so a great utility in this deck. Frantic Search works well. It works very, very well with mana doublers because you draw 2 cards, discard then two cards, then untap up to 3 lands. This deck, I believe, I did the math before, each island can tap up to 12. If you do that with this thing, you can generate a lot of mana in one turn. And the card filtering isn't bad again because your graveyard is basically an extension of your hand. Especially like if you use this, discard something good, you can even minus your own Jace, get it back, or the Bozeem Strip. Great with this card. Next is Sphinx's Tutelage because, well, why not? It's not bad. It's more or less a win con, but if I do need to, I can pay 6 mana to draw and discard a card if I have no other way of getting a card filter or card advantage just to keep generating card advantage. And, well, of course, the Sphinx's Tutelage is pretty good when you're drawing a lot of cards. Next is Dig Through Time. Just, again, dig. No pun intended, but yeah, really, this deck is a high sell deck. You want to storm, you want to combo off, and this helps you get to pieces faster. Let's go 7 deep and grab 2 of them, which is awesome. It has Delve, so you can be casting it on the cheap since your graveyard is going to fill up. Next is Thirst for Knowledge, another instant speed draw spell. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards from your hand unless you discard an artifact card from your hand. So late game, like if I don't need a ton of mana, and I draw a Soul Ring off of this. Go ahead, discard that. That's not needed anymore. Next, Consecrated Sphinx. Another great card with Sphinx's Tutelage, and just really good at keeping your hand full. especially it's Consecrated Sphinx. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. And 6 mana, 4/6 flyer, so it can get in some beats. If they don't have flyers, it can do work. Next is Mystical Tutor, which is search your library for an instant interrupter sorcery card and put on top of your library. Reveal it first. Probably one of the most well-known blue tutor. So yeah, just good all around. Again, utility. That's the nature of this deck. Next is long-term plans. I really, really like this card. It is personally one of my favorite blue tutors due to the fact that you can grab anything. And in blue, you're mostly good at grabbing instants and sorceries, but this can pull anything. So I can even go grab Consecrated Sphinx if I need to. And he has to just put it 3 cards deep. Because search your library for a card, and shuffle your library, then put that card third from the top. That's no problem, because more or less you're probably going to cantrip, or I do run, what is it? Sensei's Divine top in the deck, so boom, 4 mana, put that thing on the top. It's essentially a demonic tutor at that point, but just not as good, but that's okay because you're in blue and you do not have as good of tutors as black, so this thing is, to me, an all-star. Next is Busan Zenith. Basically just it's a stupid card and can eventually be a win condition because, well, you can tap an island for 12 mana. Doesn't get there consistently though, but consistently hits anywhere around 5 to 7 mana per island. So that's relatively good when you can tap 1 island and draw 7 cards. Draw 4 cards. So yeah, and you can even end up blue sunning your opponent, blue sun zenithing your opponent for the win. So that's good. Treasure Cruise, one of the better card draw spells. The card from the cons block. 7 colors and 1 blue for with delve and draw 3 cards. Like I said, you have no problem. You might be pitching a bunch of lands with Jace, so you'll have no problem exiling those, or cards that are dead to you that really have no use anymore. You have no problem delving them away just to draw 3 cards on the cheap, even down to 1 mana. Next, Preordain, which is scry 2 then draw a card. Awesome early game cantrip, even good late game. Scrying away 2 lands that you don't really need is always good. Just always going deeper. That's what this deck is great about. That's what I love about it. Fact or Fiction, just one of the better draw spells in EDH. Reveal top 5 cards of your library, and opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. For put 1 pile into your hand, the other into your graveyard. That doesn't really matter, considering you can probably just cast them off your onto your graveyard anyway, using Jace, Bosium Strip, or yeah, those are just main ones. But again, that's good all around utility. There is no real downside to it. Brainstorm, because, well, any blue deck should be running it. Next is Flash of Insight. It's a card from Judgment, costing X, a colorless, and 1 blue. Look at the top X cards of the library. Put 1 of those cards into your hand and put the rest in the bottom of your library with a flashback of colorless and blue, and remove X blue cards from your graveyard from the game. I like about this because once you're producing a lot of mana, and let's say I'm trying to go and dig for a combo piece, I can end up going 40 plus deep, no problem, and being able to pick up that 1 combo piece I need, cast it, go off, and win the game at that point. No, it's just really good card for trying to find combo pieces if you don't have a tutor. Next is Desert Seeker, who is oh, sorry about that. Again, he's mainly here for getting combo pieces, getting artifact to ramp, and even using that +1 to ramp a little bit more from artifacts if you're having a little bit of a slow start, which is absolutely no problem at all. And if -X is the just definitely the best for him. That's the main reason I have him in the deck. Like I said, grab ramp, any artifact you want. The highest costing is 6, so you can use them at 4 decently, and grab Phyrexian Metamorph, Extraplanar Lens, Sculpting Steel, Sensei's Divining Top, Helm of Awakening. That's really like coming out for loyalty. That's the kind of sweet spot for him, and what makes him a pretty good option for a 5-drop in this deck. Next is Impulse. You look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library. And shuffle your library afterwards. I like this because it's basically a Pure 3 depths, but it grabs anything and goes just 1 card less, but that's not really a big issue. Next on to our control package would be one coming in at, well, not number 1, but coming in at, well, just Overwhelming Denial. Basically last word, but it has the possibility, basically last word, so counter target spell. This one can't be countered, and it has an option of the surge cost, costing 2 blue, which is good for counter spells war if I'm counter, or if I need to counter multiple things in a turn. Just an all around better than last word, that's for sure. And that's why out of all time, probably one of my favorite counter spells. Next is Snap. Again, one of those things that untaps lands that works really, really well with those mana accelerators that makes islands tap for more than 1. And we can remove huge threats. Next is Reality Shift, one of, personally to me, one of the better blue spot removals, because it just straight up exiles the creature rather than bouncing them, which is more times than not what you're going to be doing. This just gets rid of it outright. Yeah, they do manifest, but there's a decent chance they're going to hit a land, so that's not really bad at all. Next we run Stifle. Counter target activated or triggered ability. I like this because commanders, like in my play group, we have Alicia who smiles at death, Mimeoplasm, Kalia the Vast, Duretti, when their commanders do have activated or triggered abilities. It's great to just be able to counter that, or if somebody's fetching, stop that turn 1. It's all around good utility, and in EDH I'd say it's one of the more looked over counter spells, but I find it to actually be a very, very well performer in EDH, just because of the massive amount of abilities going off that are activated or triggered. For example, ETB triggers. I know that the Duretti deck in my play group, the Spinovish Saw is a problem, so I can counter the ability of either ending or leaving so it doesn't go into his hand afterwards, so it makes it a little bit harder to reoccur. So just gonna Stifle all around, I find it good. Next is Repeal. It just returns a non-land permanent to its owner's hand and draws us a card, so it's good. The kind of downside of paying X, but our islands produce enough if you couldn't tell. Next is Insidious Well, a card out of Kaladesh that I personally really, really like, just because of its very much a toolbox nature. You can pay, and it's 2 colors and 2 blue. Come target spell. You may choose new targets for a spell. So basically, it has a counter spell, misdirection, and twin cast all on 1 stick. And I'm very okay with paying 4 mana for that. Next is this good old counterspell from Arcadian Masks. It's just this is my favorite counterspell, not just because of the art, but I love the old blue border just because it does. I personally think it looks cool, and I love the flavor text because it says your attack has been rendered harmless. It is, however, quite pretty. So it's kind of a cocky counterspell. I mean, all the flavor text for counterspells usually are, but I don't know. I just kind of like this one. I find it a little bit comical. Next is Arcane Denial, an instant from Alliances, I believe. I probably said that wrong. No, I think I got it right. Anyway, it's a counter target spell for a colorless and a blue. It's a strip hard counter. And then at that spell's then at next upkeep, not necessarily my next upkeep, but at any next upkeep, that spell's controller may draw 2 and I draw 1. Well, they may draw 2 and I may draw 1. That's really good with Consecrated Sphinx because I can just bury them in card advantage off of them thinking, oh, hey, I get value off of this, but in the end, I can be getting more value off this, and odds are I have enough counter spells and card advantage on them that I can make up for the cards they draw, even if you don't have Consecrated Sphinx. Next is Syncopate because, well, it's kind of like Mana Leak, but, well, it's variable according to their mana. You can cost it at cheap in case they tap out, only costing 2, and I love how it exiles it and doesn't return it to their, and does put it into the graveyard. It's, that's the main reason, especially if they're playing graveyard deck, this is great. Now next, Summary Dismissal. Exile all other spells and counter all abilities. I like that because it gets past things that say can't be countered and counter all abilities in case there's a lot of ETB triggers are going on or anything like that, and Counterspell War. This is great. It's an awesome finisher for it. Next is Cryptic Command. The card that has said you can't lose the game if you have this in your hand and you can cast it, and that is pretty true because you can counter a spell, bounce a permanent, tap all creatures with mountain control, or draw a card. Just awesome utility for 4 mana. Next is Forbid. A colorless and 2 blue for buyback of choose and discard 2 cards, a counter target spell. Great for when I have surplus lands in my hand and I can just pitch them no problem and keep on going back with this. A very brutal counter spell in 1v1, which is what this deck is more geared towards. Now, I really like Spell Crumple because, again, a graveyard deck, Mimeoplasm, and Duretti. They're a problem in my play group, so this is great because it puts it on the bottom of their library to where they can't reanimate it or anything. And also this goes back so I can end up tutoring it up again. Now again, we have Rewind. Counter target spell, untap up to 4 lands. Great with mana doublers, can really help in counter spell wars or just kind of refueling for my enemies during my enemy's turn to either bounce more permanents or anything like that. This works great. Next, Metal Mixer, which is really just kind of tutor for more counter spells, or even Cyclonic Rift like we have here. Again, Cyclonic Rift is great. It can close out a game real quick. Next, we have Jin-Gitaxi's Core Augur, which is for slower, grindier games. This can just be brutal, get my hand size back up quick, and just annihilate my opponents if they don't have a maximum hand size, which is why I really, really love this card. In 10 mana, that's really no problem for us. And even a decent-sized body on here. So that's why I put it in the card draw, because that's its main purpose, is to draw 7 at end of turn and refuel just before their turn. Next is Remand, a card I think that's kind of overlooked in EDH because it underperforms in the format as for sure, but I like it as a tempo play. Maybe if they can't recast something after something back, that's good on my end. I draw a card and I send them back 1 turn. It's just, or maybe they didn't have to cast it twice. It's just a good old tempo play on my end. Next is Capsize, a reusable bounce spell for when we have a lot of mana. That's just great, and especially if we can get our lands tapped to 6, which happens pretty often, we can end up bouncing 10, 12 permanents to our owners back to their owner's hand. So you can really end up mana screwing the opponent with this combo as well. Next, Mana Drain. Just because, well, it's Mana Drain. You can counter a bomb, wait for somebody to gen wave for like 36, counter it. Get enough mana at next upkeep, and just combo off, play a bunch of spells, use that mana. This is really meant for a conditional counterspell, but can't end up leading to winning the next turn if you can get enough mana with it. Just all around great. Next, Force of Will, because, well, we always got to have a counterspell open. And losing a card and 1 life is not bad by any means for possibly even losing the game, because once things are on the board, we do not have the best removal for them, other than just a handful of cards, so we want to take care of threats before they're on the board. That's where Force Wheel comes in. Now onto the combo. Enter the Infinite. 12 mana. I'd say it's self-explanatory. Now draw cards equal number of cards in your library. Then put a card from your hand onto the top of your library. You have no maximum hand size until next turn. And that really kind of helps us get the perfect hand. And yep, I want to kind of like more of the combo. One of our combo win conditions, leading to win conditions, is going to be Helm of Awakening, Future Sight, and Sensei's Divining Top. For any of you who don't really know this combo, Sensei's Divining Top is 1 colorless mana for an artifact that you can pay 1, look at the top of your cards in the library, put them back in any order, tap the draw card, and put Sensei's Divining Top on the top of its owner's library. Next is Helm of Awakening, which makes all spells cost 1 generic mana less, and Future Sight, which is you play with the top card of your library field, you may cast cards on top of your library. So what you end up doing is you have to have all 3 on the battlefield. You tap the draw card with this. Draw a card, put Sensei's Divining Top in the library. Since it's revealed, you can play the top card of the library. It costs 1 generic mana less, so you can go ahead and cast it again, no problem. And just do that to get your storm count up really high. And what Enter the Infinite is used in this specific combo is to give you these 3 cards and 4 other cards like Force Will and other counterspells to really back up this combo. So basically, one turn, Enter the Infinite, give yourself the perfect 7, set other cards, get 4 other control cards aside, usually counterspells to protect these pieces for when you play them. Because if you can cast 12 mana, because if you have 12 mana, you can easily cast all these. And yeah, and you probably want to grab, and me, I usually grab a bounce spell in case somebody attacks, to be with Lodestone Golem or Thalia, Heretic Guardian of Thraben. And so just bounce those back to your hand for a turn. Untap 2 lands, you get that mana, and that's really where this combo shines, and is one of the main win conditions of the deck, is to get your storm count up. Now once you have a relatively large storm count, like in the 90s or somewhere around there, because you don't want to completely deck yourself again, we have the win conditions that really do work with this. One being Mind Desire, which basically lets us cast everything in our deck. It's kind of there for the hell of it, there for fun. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that card in there, considering I don't cast it a whole hell of a lot. Another one is Psychosis Crawler. It's powered up into an equal number of cards in our hand, and whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life, so we can easily end up draining them for 90 life in 1 turn, because once we discard everything, because our hand size, once our maximum hand size wears off, we discard everything into our graveyard, and because we have our Ulamog, everything shuffles back in. And yep, and that's another one of our, it's kind of like our backup win condition, because the first one you saw, that's kind of our main. We need to get that. This can win actually throughout the game because of how much cards we do draw. And now for the final, my personal favorite finisher is Brain Freeze, colorless and 1 blue for an instant. Target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard with Storm. Storm is our main win con with this deck. If not, it can mill out with Consecrated. You can mill out with Sphinx's Tutelage, his ult. Yeah, if somebody still has the full 100 in their library, it only takes it only takes 20 spells. So with the Storm combo, with this ult, it doesn't even take that much to just mill somebody out through that. So this deck is pretty resilient with how many kind of alternate win cons it does have. But yeah, that's why I really like the deck. I love it because of its toolbox nature. Its resilience, even to fast-paced aggro Voltron decks or even going wide strategies. As for the fact of, yeah, it's just me. I'm the main blue player in our group, and so yeah, that's where kind of the 2 blue MTG came from, which is from Counterspell, and my friend actually helped me come up with it and solidified the idea for the name of this channel. And you'll actually see him in a later video when you see both of our competitive decks going head to head. My Jace runs Prodigy against his Duretti deck. At the moment, he does run proxies in the deck because he doesn't have the most money, so he doesn't have a whole lot to spend on magic cards, but we get there slowly. I will put, when he plays something, I will put the cards that he plays on the screen, because we do just have proxies written out on paper. Yeah, like I said, we're also probably doing a little bit more, like maybe even Pauper Commander, maybe a little bit of Modern, maybe some sort of challenge decks where, hey, everybody has $30 for an EDH deck. Let's see what we can do here, and just kind of have fun. We're probably gonna end up doing 2-headed giant as well. But there's going to be some bit of 1v1, and we're hoping to keep some variety of it. Maybe invite some of our friends from the playgroup. Maybe have a relatively large game. And right now I'm actually working on getting the planar cards and getting a Plane Chase Anthologies if I can find one cheap enough. Because one time I played Map the Blind Eternities mode of Plane Chase, and that was just fun. And I'd love to play that again, that's for sure. Well, thanks for watching. I know I kind of rambled a little bit there near the end, but thanks for watching my Jace Vryn's Prodigy competitive EDH video. I hope you like this. I hope you like this video as well. I'm probably doing a few more competitive decks in the future, and one of them is actually right here. And yeah, one of my challenges, my friend said, hey, build mono white, because everybody's like, hey, you play too much blue, so we all hate you, sort of deal. So that's what we did do. And pretty soon, there's going to be another EDH video. You're going to see this probably a deck in probably future videos, but Shatter Gang Brothers. This is actually my first Jund deck ever. I've been playing blue for probably close to 3 years now, and I've been playing almost exclusively blue control decks from there out. I did have a Muzio deck in the past. I will link that in the description on Tapped Out. Eventually this deck will make a debut in Tapped Out, because I do have an old version of this deck, and I was going to make him more of a stack style commander, but then I realized that's not really how I like, that's not really his purpose. So, and I also kind of got this idea from my old Kami of the Crescent Moon deck, which was a mono blue, everybody draws everything deck, and just drawing cards everywhere. Drawing a new hand at your upkeep was not uncommon for that deck, and yeah, I'm going to end up rebuilding that thing, because quite a few cards from there are in here. But yeah, look forward to more content in the future between me and the other people in my play group, because there is sure to be more content to come. Because we do enjoy Magic Gathering. It's been one of the things that I'm glad I joined, but I wish I joined earlier. This is a lot of fun. Not else to say about it. It's a great thing to be a part of. So, well, anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any suggestions on maybe what I should take out, what I should put in, I'm open for that. I'm kind of closer towards the fine-tuning stages of this deck. So anyway, thanks for watching. Like if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it. Stick around for more. There are sure to be more videos in the future, more gameplay, maybe even talking about some future Kaladesh inventions that are coming out that people seem to be freaking out over. Well, anyway, guys, have a good night. This is 2 Blue MTG. You have 2 islands untapped, and I'm watching you, and have a good night.